Hi everyone. How's everyone doing today? I'll let everyone file in. I hope my Wi-Fi is better than last time. Let me know in the comments if it is. I know last time was kind of a bust with my horrible internet, but Cory still said some amazing things and was really great. So today we're going to talk about a couple other things. But yeah, I'm just really excited to be able to do this. Hello, Cory. I see ya.
Hey, how are
Hi.
you? I am so happy to see you and we can hear each other.
I'm so happy to see you. You don't know what I've been through this last couple weeks trying to figure out my Wi-Fi. Oh my gosh.
It is, we take it for granted until it's gone. And
Seriously though.
yes. It's really interesting just because I'm sure for you it works this way, but I hope for everybody it expands their empathy to understand that we still live in a nation where, like, some of our competitors have universal broadband. We do not. Rural
We do
areas in
not.
America, yes. So a lot of our kids right now are really suffering because they're asking us to distance learn, and kids are finding out that they just don't have connections to the internet.
Yeah, no, it's definitely you can kind of see there's an archaic system behind it where we're still kind of working in a time where it feels like we should be more progressed than that. But we're not. And I think quarantine has really highlighted that.
Yes. COVID has really stripped bare the fragilities we have, whether it
Mm.
is workers who don't have just basic economic security, that now we see them as essential, but unfortunately they're paid as if they're expendable,
Right.
or our children, even our food systems, to suddenly see miles long food lines, but yet they're killing animals because they can't find a way to get them to the people that need them, or plowing under fields. So this,
Exactly.
I hope, is a time that we are having our circles of empathy expanded and understand that we've got to fix this stuff.
Right.
Because whether it's just accessing the internet, which is, it's not a luxury, it's vital. And I don't think, in many ways, I think it should be like roads and highways are. Whether
Mhm.
you are the lowest income earner or a billionaire, we all have the roads and highways of America. And well,
Very
this
much
is the
so.
modern era. Yeah, everybody should have access to the superhighways of the internet.
Exactly. No, 100%. It's been an interesting time. I actually got my first COVID test, and now I've had like two or three since then. Now three. I've had three since then, but I got tested the first time about 3 weeks ago, and it's been just an interesting um, process to go through that, and then getting the results back. I've been negative the entire time, but it's been interesting to kind of see
But you're
what
such
it's
a
like.
positive person.
There we go.
I'm sorry, the
There
dad
we
jokes.
go.
The dad jokes have begun.
You found it. You got in there. You found the one. But no, it's been interesting because when I got the test back, there was such a sense of anxiety that released that I realized before I got tested. I've been living now for the past several months worried, hoping I'm quarantining well, hoping, when I go to the store, I'm wearing the mask and I hope it's working. But it was an interesting thing that getting the test results back, it was almost like a calmness came over me because I was like, okay, I'm doing the right steps, but it's a different entire feeling right now being a human. You know what I mean?
Yes, I definitely know exactly what you mean. And it is a time where we're all being forced to confront the fear of how this might affect us or our family. And
Mhm.
um, I'm glad that you did take a test, because I think it's good that not only that but it helps to be a level set for what we're doing. And clearly, you're socially distancing, you're wearing a mask, you're doing everything responsibly. And in many ways, it testifies to the fact that if we can do this right,
Yeah.
that we can really protect others as well. And I know you live with your mom, as we were talking about before.
Yes,
Um,
completely. And it's,
yeah, so
it's so
that's
important.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I worry about a lot of folks who still don't have the access to the testing that they need, or the fact that we are a country where it still takes too long for a lot of these tests to come back. It really puts a lot of folks in trouble, and we don't have the kind of contact tracing that if you do find yourself, that we have the ability to, okay, put the resources into knowing who you've been in contact with and the like.
Right, completely. So just the other day, we celebrated 100 days to November, to the election, which is exciting.
Yeah.
So I'd love to kind of jump in and ask you a couple questions regarding the election and the Joe Biden campaign and a few different things. And I know we talked about this last time, but I kind of wanted to go over it again because our connection was so bad. But
I feel like our connection is strong between you and I.
I feel like our connection is
I feel like
emotionally
there's a
always
real,
been strong.
Yes, I feel like there's a real friendship here.
Yeah, it started a long time ago. I think we did that interview together in the like washers. Remember? I think we were like in the room.
It was at the convention.
Yes, and there was like
there
was
stuck us
like washers in the background, right?
Did we do dryer spins? I can't remember if we
I
actually
think it was
I really enjoyed that, and it's amazing. It's like, unfortunately, that's 4 years ago.
I know.
We have to like commit to each other that I don't mind if we make it annual, but we can't wait every 4 years, for crying out loud.
At least annually.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. No, but I wanted to ask you again, you know, for a lot of people watching, this might be their first election. So do you remember the first time you voted and kind of what was that like? Even though we talked about this before, we might as well do it again.
All right. Well, being that we're not in the laundry room right now, I don't have to keep this clean.
Oh my gosh. It's
so
like
sorry.
you looked him up and you have a book in front of you with keywords.
I was 18 years old, or maybe I just turned 19. It was 1988, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a college freshman. And I just remember voting in the primaries. It was a really competitive primary back then. And I voted for Jesse Jackson, who was running for president in that primary. And I just remember how excited I was to walk into a voting booth and vote. And I had been raised sort of with the urgency of that sort of obligation and an understanding that people had fought and died for that right. And also with the understanding that more bad stuff happens in America because people choose not to vote than because people vote for somebody that's not necessarily great or not. In other words, the participation, especially of young people, like, because I don't care if you're Republican or Democrat, young people believe in overwhelmingly legalizing marijuana, overwhelmingly in common sense gun safety, overwhelmingly in lowering prescription drug prices, reducing or eliminating the costs of college. All of these issues, there's like bipartisan agreement amongst people that are under 35. And if they participated more, there would be they'd have far more influence in the outcome of policy. But right now, the young votes are often taken for granted because it's seniors that's older than me, the generation older than me, that votes at the highest levels. And we can't allow that to continue. We've got to have young activism, because when it comes to things like climate change, you all are going to face worse, experience far worse consequences from the inaction of, again, we have a president in his 70s. We have baby boomers who are now in charge of the Senate and the House. It is that they're making decisions based on today, and I think because of the policy, they're not looking to the future. Well, young people live with an understanding that, hey, when I'm 80, it's going to be 2080, and this will be far past the time when we, if we do nothing, are going to be seeing the ravages of an issue like climate change.
Completely. And kind of, jumping off of that, environmental justice is a term that some people here might not know about. I mean, I know that I am still learning about it and trying to get all the information I can. But I think it'd be the most helpful if you could kind of explain what it means, what environmental justice is.
I'm so grateful for you asking that question, because we often talk about climate change and what's going to happen in the future, but we don't really focus enough on the millions of Americans that are living in environments that are really unjust. And so take, for example, we all know about the Flint, Michigan water crisis, but there's over 3,000 communities where children have more than twice the blood lead levels of Flint, Michigan. And so access to clean water for millions of families is not, they don't have it. Access to clean air. We have areas where asthma rates are much higher. Living around Superfund sites, which are these sites that are the most toxic in our country, we know they correlate with birth defects and autism rates. So all of that is just unjust. It's certain Americans live, but it's even more unjust when you think it's disproportionately low-income Americans. And in fact, the number one indicator of whether you live near a toxic site or not is the color of your skin, because it disproportionately affects Black and Brown Americans. And so I've been one of these folks. I helped found the Environmental Justice Caucus in the Senate, and I have a major bill on this issue that is trying to really fight now. And I don't think you can talk about climate change without having a pillar of your sort of agenda be about environmental justice.
Mm-hmm. No, completely. And how will Joe Biden's plan, like what's his plan to address it? How will he go about helping us in that?
Yeah, well, I'm excited that our party has come a long way, frankly, and even the platform now. Because remember, we as activists have to understand that the Democratic Party has not always been right. We've got to push the party to be inclusive of more people. I remember the days when I was coming up in politics that the elders didn't even support marriage equality in the Democratic Party. Yeah, so I'm happy to see our platform move on this issue, and to see Joe Biden, when I was in a primary with him, speaking out about environmental justice. And so I think what's going to happen, God willing, if he gets elected and we win back the Senate, which is really important.
Incredibly important,
and there are a lot of Senate seats. If you live in Arizona, if you live in Colorado, if you live in Maine or Iowa or Kansas or Alaska or North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, all of these places are places where there's Senate seats in the balance. And if we end up flipping the Senate, because it's really close to being flipped right now, we're 3 votes shy, and as Democrats, we're going to pass major environmental legislation, whether it's getting rid of all the lead service lines in our country, which is not that expensive, all the way to attacking the things that Obama had done that Trump has rolled back, like the clean air plan that Obama put into place. Or the methane rules, or a lot of these things that actually lead to respiratory diseases. In fact, I still remember looking at the data when Trump was rolling this back, that scientists could actually measure how many more people will die of respiratory diseases as a result of the rolling back of these things. So that's so unjust, and I know that Biden was a part of the Obama administration, so I know he's going to do those things. But I think he's somebody that brings a bigger vision actually now for dealing with environmental injustice, and I'm excited about it.
Right. No, I mean, that's so eye-opening to kind of hear you explain that, and to hear that they could see then what it would do and what it would affect, and how many people it would hurt. I mean, it's terrifying. It's incredibly unjust. So Joe Biden's clean energy plan, it talks a lot about jobs, but I was kind of wondering, how are those two things interconnected?
Yeah, that's another great question. And look, the great thing about, often people are told, and a lot of times Republicans try to scare people. If we do work on the environment, it's going to hurt our economy. Well, Biden's proposal is the whole contrary, and most of us who know this is actually, you could create hundreds and hundreds of thousands of jobs in America by doing the right thing by our environment. And these are the ideas that green jobs will be created if we deal with these issues. So if we're replacing lead service lines, that means we need people to do that kind of infrastructure work. And those are good paying, often union jobs. If we are going to build out more renewable sources of air, in fact, there's more people now in America employed by solar than employed by coal. And again, they're higher paying middle income jobs. And so there's this whole raft of opportunity for us to create a new green economy and to honor people who are struggling right now, like independent family farmers. I just did an earlier speech today on like a Zoom platform talking about paying farmers to use cover crops and do other things, because our ag subsidies right now are supporting these multinational big corporations to do the practices that are hurting our environment and hurting farmers. Why not pay farmers, give them new sources of revenue to take on practices that actually pull carbon out of the air, that protect our rivers and streams from agricultural runoff and more. So that not only can we create jobs, but we can create more economic security for a lot of folks, because we've lost about 1 million farmers in America. It's like people are going out of business, losing their family farms. Suicide
Right.
rates are on the rise amongst independent family farmers as these big factory farming corporations come in and take them over. Well, let's give them a better economic foothold by paying them to be better stewards of the land and take on practices that are going to pull carbon from the air and help to solve this problem.
That is so incredibly important. I mean, it's great to hear kind of the way those two things coincide and are interconnected. It's really interesting. How do you think, and what do you suggest people should do kind of getting ready for November, educating themselves in the things we talked about last time, which was voter suppression, and then, you know, more talking about climate and environmental justice right now? How do you think people should go about educating themselves running up to
Well,
it?
the first thing I would say is, like, you know, if first of all, if you're watching, if you're one of the thousands of people that are going to watch this right now, you're probably already interested in this, and you
Right.
need to just see yourself as an activist, like, and take responsibility for getting people in your world to go vote. And that means taking simple steps. Is like, how can I help people, remind people to register? In states right now, it's not too late to register to vote. And there's simple hotline numbers or websites that you can go to, regardless what state you're in, to find out how to register. Why not do a social media post about that? Register
Yeah.
to vote. What is that about? Because right now, getting people prepared for the voting time is really important. And if everybody takes responsibility for 5 people, 10 people, then we're going to have a big thing. So that's the first thing, is I would become an exponent of how do I get people to get registered and prepared. And then the second thing is I would help, if I'm an activist watching this right now, is I would say I've got 98 days. Can I commit to once a week, like about 80 times between now and November, putting one issue that's really important that's on the ballot? You know, voting this time, it's going to make a difference of whether we end mass incarceration or not. Voting right now is going to depend on if we invest in public education and teachers or let them continue to be attacked. This election is going to be about women's reproductive rights. Remember, I mean, we had made such strides under President Obama, even for so many American women who found their birth control free. And
Exactly.
and
Right.
and and we've now gone from that world to now the places that provide contraceptive care, like Planned Parenthood, under serious attack.
Right.
So I could go through, if you're doing once a week, you know, 8 or 9 times for the number of weeks. There's real issues that are important to you. Let people know that this is on the ballot, that this is why we're fighting. Even on global issues, besides climate change, there are real issues that are going on that are differences between Donald Trump and not. Whether it's national security issues, whether it's aid to nations that are struggling right now, whether it's just treating immigrants with dignity and honor and seeing their divinity in our immigration policies.
It's
So
a massive.
I just would say commit yourself. You don't have to be big. Once a week, I'm going to be an activist. I'm going to start with figuring out how I can remind and help people register to vote. And I'm going to start with just putting up issues that are really, really important once a week.
I love that. I think that's a great kind of plan, you know, and call to action to kind of focus on that and take your time with it and be able to not be overwhelmed. Because I know it's kind of easy to get overwhelmed if you just try to, you know, get all the information in at once. I know I've been overwhelmed, especially when I first voted, when, you know, Hillary Clinton was running and that was my first vote. But it was overwhelming trying to figure out, you know, all the things that go into casting your vote. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it, and kind of understanding also the process of when you're there, what it's like to have it in front of you, and focus on your, you know, what's going on in your city, and around you and what's going to affect you on a local level too, which is really important.
It is so important, but I understand that. I remember when I was voting that first time about how the issue seemed so big, and when I got in there to vote for Jesse Jackson, there were a whole bunch of people on the ballot that I wasn't really sure who they were, and I hadn't I hadn't gotten myself sort of educated on who the folks were, and it's stunning to me to realize we lose Senate seats because people go in and vote for the Democratic candidate for president, but we have hundreds of thousands of people that don't just continue down the ballot and to fill out the Senate race and the congressional race and more. So it is overwhelming, and I admit that, but it doesn't have to be. And so right now, I would just take a deep breath and say, I'm not going to let my inability to do everything undermine my determination to do something. I just finished this great book called Atomic Habits. That should just say commit to small things that are easy to do. If you say I'm going to run 10 miles a day, that's great. But you know what? Why don't I just start by putting on getting dressed to run and going out and jogging around if I just build that habit, it starts creating momentum for me to do the bigger thing. So start right now by saying once a week, I'm going to do something. And then you might find, you know what? I can do this twice a week. You know what? By the time election day rolls around, I'm going to be posting something every day, reminding people using all my platforms, from Instagram to Twitter. Heck, I'm going to sign up for other platforms just to try to get folks to get things done. So find something that you can do regularly and try to do it, and commit yourself to doing that. And you'll never know. Actually, I have to say, in my early voting days, I remember '88. I remember voting again when I was just leaving Stanford '92. It got fun by that time. Just sort of having, wait a minute, what are you petting there?
She just hopped into my lap.
I am so lonely. I need a comfort dog, for crying out loud.
This is my baby.
I'm socially isolated. My girlfriend's moving in with me, but not for a few weeks from now. And you're just like flaunting the fact that you have a socially, a comfort dog, a comfort animal there.
She's like over here snarping during your speech. She's like, I'm like, oh my gosh, Ruby, you're so loud.
Oh my gosh, that is really rough that you're doing that to me.
Oh my gosh, Cory. It's so important. I mean, for me, it's been kind of the best thing is, since I got her 3 years ago now, just waking up to her and having her as my friend. I usually have her on set with me too when I'm away from home, and it's so helpful. It's like a therapy dog. It really is.
People live longer who have pets. And I'm a big animal person, so I've been doing a lot in the Senate on animal issues. So I'm happy to see. I hope people will go out there, get a dog, adopt save a life, go get a dog out of a shelter if you can. And I just think there's so many animal issues in this country too that we don't think about. So I try to do it. But I'm now just jealous.
I know. I mean, heck. If this one could run for president, we'd be just in the best place ever. A doji for president? No, I'm kidding.
I believe. Oh, that's so amazing.
I believe. No, but kind of going off of what you said, I think what helped me was finding something personal in my own life as to why I was voting. And I think, in this election, I really see this as not a partisan issue anymore.
No.
This is, in my opinion, it's a moral decision.
Yeah, I think I so agree with you. I think this is one of those elections that it's not left or right, it's right or wrong. And
exactly.
Yeah, the character of our country, the kindness and the decency. I don't want my politics to be fueled by hate and grievance politics or demeaning and degrading behavior. And so I'm so happy that you see it that way. But I like what you just said before that, which is like, what are the issues that are important to me? And if you're about women's reproductive rights, if you're about trans rights, I mean, here's a president that's taken our patriotic Americans out of the military just because they're trans Americans. Who's rolled back protections for our trans kids through the Department of Education. I mean, whatever your issue is, what animates you, let that be your motivating force. Because maybe you don't want to pick a different issue every week. Maybe you want to just talk about all that this president has done to assault LGBTQ rights.
Exactly.
And there are so many things that could fill once a week between now and on that issue alone, or to dissolve women's rights, or to roll back civil rights. So I just or environmental issues, environmental rights. God, there's just the EPA alone has done so much. So I love the way you're
Exactly.
thinking. Make it personal. You know,
Exactly.
what is this? What affects me and fires me up, and let me channel that energy into this effort. Because, you know, I still remember one of my favorite things that Obama said when he would say something and people would boo, and he's like, "Don't boo, vote." You know, it's like, you know,
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah,
Our power is in our vote and our voice, and that's our right, and that's what we can do to try to make change in this country. And in November, you know, I think be on the right side of history. Cast your vote, because that's what you got. You know what I mean?
yes, and
Our power.
I think that this is such an important election that you and I should probably, because we can't meet at the convention like we did last 4 years ago.
Oh
But
no.
I think that you and I should do a laundry reuniting
Yes.
around this election. Like, I'll do it in front of my washing machine. I will
I will
show
do it in front of
you.
mine.
You do it in front of yours. We can have a reunion where
Oh
we're
my gosh,
using
I would love that.
our platforms. Maybe by then I don't have to get jealous of your comfort dog. I will have a comfort girlfriend living with me, and you know, maybe
Comfort
Rosario.
girlfriend.
maybe Rosario can make a
He's
guest
gonna be like,
appearance.
"Is that what I am to you? A comfort girlfriend?" Like one of
Did
those gravity blankets.
Yes. Did I just get myself in
Wait a
trouble, by the way? Please tell me I didn't just make Rosario mad. I'm still a kind of a, you know, in maturity level, men versus women, you probably are my maturity level when it comes to that. So I just hope I didn't make a mistake. But I will say this. You are truly give me comfort just by knowing what kind of activist you are. And that 4 years ago, what were you 4 years ago? Like, you know, like you were like 13?
18.
Could you vote 4
Freshly
years?
18.
Could you vote 4 years ago, for crying out loud?
I know, exactly. It's what it feels like though.
And you were so woke back then. I was so blown away by you. And I just love how you're putting yourself out there, because I know you get hate. I know you do.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you right now, if people are not criticizing you, you're probably not doing anything in life. And you put yourself out there for what you believe, and you're an artist. And, you know, a lot of times people criticize artists, but to me, artists are vital to this country even more now than ever, because we just, in a time of social unrest, in a time of trauma and pain and injustice, it's artists that are so vital to expanding our moral imagination, to pricking our conscience, to trying to use your platform for the greater good. So even though I'm mad at you for making me feel bad that I don't have a puppy, I feel just I'm so grateful for you.
Well, thank you so much. And you know, I've always looked up to you, and it's been so wonderful.
That's just because I'm 6'3".
A friend of mine, as well as literally being short and moving like this, because I'm 5'5", and even in heels, I'm still like, "What's up? How are you doing up there? What's the air like up there?"
So why don't we end? Can I tell you a joke?
Yes.
So this is one that my dad told me. So this is really a dad joke. Okay.
Okay.
So my dad's from the South. You know, he always has these exaggerations. He says, you know, like, I was so poor I couldn't afford to be poor. I was just P-O, a po' boy. I couldn't afford the other two letters. You know, things like that. And he said one day he was sitting in the back of his classroom, and a teacher came in and said, "Class, anybody in this classroom thinks you're stupid. I want you to stand up right now. I want to know who you are, because this is about self-esteem. I want to give you a lesson about self-esteem. So if you think you're dumb, if you think you're stupid, stand up." And she just stood there crossing her arms, staring at the kids, but nobody moved. And my dad said, she repeated herself. She just goes, "Come on now, if you think you're dumb, think you're stupid, stand up." My father said nobody moved. And eventually he just said he pushed his chair back and stood up proudly. And the teacher goes, "Mr. Booker Boy, what's wrong with you? You think you're dumb? You think you're stupid?" And my father said, "Well, shucks, ma'am, I don't think I'm stupid, but I didn't want you to be the only one standing." Okay, it was bad. But the moral of the story my dad told me is
Oh
that
my
you got to stand
gosh.
up. In life, you got to stand. Even if people are going to look down on you, you got to stand up. Even if people are going to scorn you, you got to stand up. And the best way to stand is not for yourself, but to stand for other people. And in this election, when so many of Americans who live in the shadows of life or marginalized, who are facing oppression, one of the best things you can do is stand up and vote for their justice, whether it's immigrants, vote for their justice, whether they're the incarcerated, vote for their justice, whether they're the elderly who are living in substandard conditions or can't afford their insulin. This is a time we all need to stand up and stand together.
I love it. Thank you so much, Cory. Today was wonderful. I'm so happy I got to speak to you again. I'm happy I had that connection because I got 2 conversations with you out of it.
I liked it. Well, I reach back out because I would love to do our next one at our washing machine rooms.
Let's do it, and I'll have
I'm not
Ruby
going to
with me
judge you
again.
based upon your detergent at all. I promise you.
I mean, look, I can walk you through everything I use. Thank you so much.
All right. Goodbye. Take care now.
Talk to you later. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you guys so much for watching today. I hope it was, insightful for you all. And go to @JoeBiden here on Instagram and hit follow. And also visit joebiden.com to sign up or text 30330 to join the campaign. All right. Thank you guys so much. We're going to be back, I think, in a couple weeks with another really exciting guest to talk about more things leading up to the election. Thank you guys. Have a good day.